In the face of scientific advancement, it is very difficult to really claim, to stand straight to your face and say, there's no cause behind this. We can forgive people 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 20 years ago, but science is advancing. And so the argument you're going to hear, let me summarize the argument in the current debate, and you've heard some of them already. Faith in God lacks rationale. Miracles just don't happen. Believers are at best deluded simpletons, or they are smart, intelligent people who leave their brain at the door when they go to church. Sam Harris, well-known current author, says faith is nothing more than the license religious people give one another to keep believing when reason fails. That's what he believes. Daniel Dennett, who I'm sure you will hear maybe quoted tonight, says people of faith consider it demeaning to ask God tough questions. Really? I wonder what church he attended. Carl Sagan said the cosmos is all that is, or ever was, or ever will be. That is surely a leap of faith. So atheists are truly believers. Secondly, you're going to hear that faith, or you might hear, I don't know what my Dan will share, but this is the current atheistic debate. You will not hear that faith in God is damaging to you as an individual and to society. Murder, wars, violence, oppression of women are all perpetuated by people who have faith in God. The believer lives in a tormented, oppressed world, fearful of an angry God, and can be delivered into the happy, joyous society of the free thinkers. And you might also hear that the Bible is not a good book at all. There's really nothing good about it. Instead, it portrays a petulant, cruel, wicked God who oppresses and enslaves his subject while he demands their adoration and praise and worship. You may hear that Jesus Christ is not very good. In fact, you may hear suggesting that he never even existed. The whole story of Jesus is just a myth borrowed from other legends and stories in the centuries before the supposed birth of Jesus Christ. The Old Testament prophecies are just after the fact orchestrations by people who wanted to make the story good. You'll hear that evolution is the answer. We don't need God anymore. Darwin's theory has made belief in God unnecessary. Now we know how the human origin, we know about human origin, and faith in God is only, as you've already heard alluded to those who are not really learned, the weak, the sick, the hopeless, those weak-minded people who go to church and worship God. And then you might hear, and this is based on Daniel Dennett's theories and others, that biological and social revolution explains how religion and faith developed. Really, God didn't create people. People created God. And you may hear strange stories about, little noises in the dark that you can't see, and little inanimate objects that appeared strange, and that in the beginning of time, with primitive man caused him to think that there was something unknown, maybe a god or a ghost or whatever. You will hear that the idea of sin and atonement and sacrifice is brutal. And you've already heard it said that the very concept of sin comes from the Bible. Merely God is like that person who would stab you with a knife and then offer you a bandage. Now, let's say, hypothetically speaking, that I proved tonight to be a very inept debater, a very inarticulate. On every one of these points and other points that may come, it's proven tonight that Dan Barker will beat me to a pulp. He will win every argument. And I will prove to be inarticulate. I will prove to be inept. I haven't done my homework. I have provided no evidence. Let's say, I don't plan for that to happen. But let's just say, well, if that was to happen, Dan Barker or the atheist will have proven nothing about the non-existence of God. But of course, he's already covered that in his opening address. Because he said that in the debate, the burden of proof is always on the affirmative. Says who? No, the burden of proof is on the one who lacks in evidence. If we were debating, is this the month of April, and I would speak for the affirmative, I would suggest that the burden of proof would be with the one who is speaking for the negative. The one who lacks the evidence. So let the audience decide where the evidence falls tonight. Let not the atheist escape so quickly and say, I have nothing to prove. You prove everything. Let's see who has the evidence. The atheist Let me go on here. I got so much to say. The evidence. Yes, we've heard references here to the cosmological argument, the teleological argument. The watch as a watchmaker. The argument of design. The first one is cause and effect. Argument of intelligence. The idea of man's and nature's intelligence presupposes a higher intelligence. The ontological argument that of man's intuitive knowledge of God. The biological argument that only life can produce life. The moral argument, and that was alluded to as well. I look forward to discuss that in a rebuttal. Is there a universal law? Is there a universal law given? Or is it all relative, that every group of people have their own relativism, individual or in a group? Is there a universal law? And if there is, there must be a universal law given. Going back to the second argument of design, we live in a world today where we know that every single human cell in your body, every cell in your body, has over 1 million components in it. Every cell in your body, you've got a total of 75 trillion in your body, is more intricately and complex than the most complex piece of machinery ever made by man. There's nothing close to it at all. Every cell. With that kind of evidence, it becomes difficult to say, oh, it just happened. Every cell is capable. We discussed that one. Are believers really weak-minded, dim-witted? You cannot, as Dennis said, you're discouraged from asking God any tough questions. What about Mary when the angel said, you're going to conceive and bear a son? She said, how can it be? What did the angel say? You blasphemer, Mary, why do you question God? No, the angel went on to explain and gave actually 3 particular pieces of advice to Mary. What about Thomas, who said, I don't believe unless I get to touch the wounds in your hand and in your side? What did Jesus say to Thomas? Did he say, oh, you are blaspheming me, you're not allowed to ask any question? Knowest thou not that I am God incarnate? And thou beest quiet? Is that what Jesus said? Does not the book of Proverbs deplore ignorance? We can discuss that. Now, there is blind faith. Of course, there are many Christians who just believe in Christianity and blind faith. There are many atheists who also have blind faith. Just like there were blind Nazis and blind communists and blind capitalists, there's blind in every area. Now, I want to skip something. I'll save it for later. There was a reference to what faith is. And the suggestion was made that atheists are not believers. They are big-time believers. One of the books on our table is by Norman Geisler that says, I don't have faith enough to be an atheist. And I recommend that book to you. There's 2 kinds of atheists. Friedrich Nietzsche, who also influenced Adolf Hitler in his ideology, said, if one were to prove this God of the Christians to us, we should be even less able to believe in him. So there are atheists who are open-minded, and there are atheists like Nietzsche, whose problem is not really rationale and intelligent discussion, but it's in their will. But now, I'm getting to my real agenda. So that wasn't it. No, I got 5 minutes left. It's perfect. Now, when I accepted this, I have read a lot of books. I've read Hitchens, I've read Templeton, I've read many of the books, Sam Harris, many of the current arguments, and I've read Dan Martin's book also. I don't know if you read mine, but I'll give you some. Except I don't have books on this topic. And I'm kind of upset. Oh, there's outrageous attacks on Christianity. But I never recognized myself. I never see anybody seemingly of the atheistic thinkers who even grasp what the message of the Bible is. So I thought when we would have someone who's been a preacher, pastor, associate pastor for, I think I've heard 19 years, I thought, here's someone who